Well, the career as far as technical development in my craft, it can be traced all the way back to 5 years old. Professionally, I'd say maybe after high school or during high school. I was just drawn to uh, things that can be reproduced and words, situations that can be stated through the making of art. And I caught on to that very early. Oh, my favorite piece of art, yeah. Well, little drawings that I did when I was in middle school. They were like comic book strips, but they were drawings of my playmates. And some of them were horrible, and horrible to them because they were really pissed off. I remember being chased home because of my comic strip. But I was short and I could run real fast, you'd never catch me. But anyway, but it was so, it kept me laughing. It kept me in a mood of positive and happy and strong. And there was something like getting a brand new toy to play with and never tiring of this toy. So that's what motivated me. Actually, my mentor was a she, Mrs. Bleeks, in high school. Um, the other people came along a little bit later, in college. But it was Mrs. Bleeks from high school that rescued me from, field and track and football and stuff that I really didn't like, but I was very good at. And I didn't like wearing stinky uniforms and jock straps and things like that. So Mrs. Bleeks took me under her wing and I showed her my sketchbook, and her response was very positive and motivating. She introduced me to that bohemian world, that attitude. In those days, they referred to them as beatniks, and it required a lot of reading, and that was something that I wasn't really into until I started. You never know until you start. And so I was very much into the way she talked, the way she looked, the way she expressed herself, and how different she was from the rest of the faculty. And I wanted to pick up on that, especially understanding art jargon, which she had down to a pat. But that was a good boost. My technical beginnings started like when I was 5, 7 years old, and, and but I didn't realize you can make money doing this, until I got out of high school, and I'm saying this could possibly be a career, because the love outweighed, the other part, the love for doing it, the passion for making art. And I began to sell a few drawings and paintings, and around the neighborhood. I began to win a lot of art festival contests downtown Decatur. And I sold a painting for $75. In those days, that was a lot of money. Out of high school, I had stacks of completed sketchbooks, and I used my drawing ability in not so prideful ways. I kind of hurt people. Because I was this little short dude running around, and it's like I had to get some attention, especially, from the girls. And so I used my sketchbook. I used my art ability to do that. I never thought of it as art. And then I got interested in college because I was told I wasn't college material. I suffered from something called dyslexia. They didn't really realize what that was at the time. Left-handed, dyslexic, but I felt that there was power in these things, and it was easy for me to draw. and to get attention that way. When I went into college, I was ready, you know. Well, I would have gone anywhere, you know, just to be in higher education, just to continue that whole idea of intellectualism, you know, especially academic, because I was covering up, I was hiding something, and that was that dyslexic state, you know. So anything that was higher education, I pretended that I was a part of it. And Millikan University was just, maybe 400 yards from where I lived. And I would watch the college students and try to behave like them. And then, you know, as an adult, I decided to try to get into college. I took night courses, part-time. It took me 8 years or so, you know, a long time. Anyway, it was all about imitating and forcing my way in. Didn't really have the grades, but they couldn't keep you out because you didn't have, you know, the grades. I brought my average up to a 4.0 and kicked some ass all the way, you know, both in art and academia. I had to transfer to Southern Illinois because of the racial attitude at Millikan University, and it wasn't good. So I brought my grade point average way up and went down to Southern Illinois, Carbondale, and going through, you know, the BFA program, which was easy. Didn't want to leave college, you know. The Vietnam War was on, and you know, Motown was fun. The hippie movement, all of that was going on. Who wanted to leave college? But I was persuaded by art education teacher to go into art education, you know, learn to express yourself, you know, learn stats, statistics, measurements, learn the science of art, you know. And I did that, you know, and it was okay. It wasn't exciting as fine art. But I did pick up a certificate, I guess you would call it, just in case I failed in the fine arts world. But I didn't realize that making model airplanes and carving automobiles was a part of the art world. And it just dawned on me, hey, I'm doing sculpture. I've been doing sculpture all along for a long time. And so I just moved it over into, you know, well, expressing myself both three-dimensionally and two-dimensionally. And then I met Frank Gallo at the U of I in Champaign, Illinois. And I knew of Richard Hunt's work. You know, these are my mentors. These are very famous artists, both of them. And I ran, and you know, my peers, you know, the guys and I don't like the word gal. That's the guys and girls. I don't even like that. But both men and women that I went to school with, we formed these clubs, and we imitated. You know, we imitated the greats. We knew every artist that produced work, and we could discuss them. That was a part of that whole hip movement, the '60s movement. Education, reading, tight cliques, groups, politics. It just happened automatically, and the sculpture just blossomed. My favorite artists? Well, there were so many of them. You know, Aaron Douglas and Charles White and Louise Nevelson. And there was just so many, you know, Frank Gallo definitely. Richard Hunt, for sure. But, you know, we were abstract artists, you know. Even though we leaned heavily toward the figure, we still treated it as abstract because of our influence of the abstract expressionists at the New York School of Painting. Later, it became the Iowa School of Painting. It did not become, but it was a competing genre of making art, and so there's just so many. Well, I think Frank Gallo's treatment of the figure, how he handled the figure, the fluidity in his modeling, his way of looking, talking, thinking, and doing the figure. I think that he had the most influence. As far as form, shape, and abstraction, things that seemed figurative but was nothing but pure abstraction, was Richard Hunt, who led me into African sculpture in his own way. Bronze, I was excited and drawn to fire. The danger of it, watching my dad work at Wagner's tooling, or Wagner's foundry in Decatur, Illinois. Very much drawn to that. Of course, I didn't want to work there, but the smell of that place on his clothing and picking him up and looking through the window and seeing all of this, that was definitely a draw. Just like I'm drawn to water, and I can't swim. I'm afraid of water. I mean, even today, driving over a bridge, I get chills, but yet I'm drawn to it, wherever there's water, the beauty of it, the immensity of it, tends to put me in that hypnotic state, and I walk toward it. I'm not in it. Yeah, I use the lost wax process, which popped up all over the globe many different times, all the way back to the Bronze Age. No one can pinpoint where exactly it developed. It's a process, whereas you make something in wax. And back then it was just simple beeswax. Here it's a brand type of wax oil. And how you can make something, carve it perfectly in bronze and place a shell of lime-like material or plaster and allow it to harden, and to place that object into a kiln, and the wax melts out, and in its place we pour hot molten bronze. Like I said, once I get onto something, it goes forever, until I feel I've mastered it, and then I move on. So my greatest hobbies, people would think that, well, your family is large and all of them are sports oriented, and my interest would be sports. I hate sports. I don't care for sports, for many reasons. But the arts, I heard a piece by Wagner, Eastern Isolde, from the Flying Dutchman back in the 1940s. It was a movie, black and white movie, but I heard Wagner's music for the first time. And I came up macho and all that macho stuff that we were told we're supposed to be, which was stupid. And when I heard that music, it made me cry. And I was not shocked by that, but shocked at the fact that a piece of music can get to you that way. Can stir emotions deep down within this little boy, and that became one of my strongest hobbies, listening to the music, watching rehearsals, trying to play myself, and that's what sort of moved me into areas like playing rock and roll, and very quickly at the age of 14 into jazz. In 1968, I learned a form of, not a pattern form, kata, but I did learn a kata, a form, Japanese form, actually Okinawan Tei, called Shotokan, and very much into it. I was very physical at that time, and then later I studied with a Korean by the name of Master Soo Kim, who is in Peoria. That happened in 1972, long time ago. But at that same time, I grew interested in the healing arts, and that pointed me toward Tai Chi Chuan. Not only was it a martial art, it was a civil art, leaning very heavy on the civil part. See, I don't believe in boxing and stuff like that, pitting one human being against. That's war again, politics. But the healing arts of Tai Chi, and how it is structured, the principles of Tai Chi, structured to go inside the body and gently massage the body. And of course, yes, it was born out of a martial arts. It's like a ball of cotton with a needle in it, and many times you have to sharpen the needle, see, not necessarily by war, but recognize that even the smallest animal will defend itself. So I studied Tai Chi. Tai Chi is a dance, and of course art is a dance too. Um, Dance is visual. The audience, you can watch them sway, and their physicality changes when they peer at dancers, that are moving. They're transferring an emotion, whether we're aware of it or not. Tai Chi Chuan has taught me about fluidity and how to paint with the body as well as the brush, or how to consider the brush an extension of the body. If I'm drawing across horizontal, I breathe a certain way. If I'm drawing vertical with ink or wet media, I breathe a certain way. I begin to discover this, and it's everything. Well, it's automatically my love for it, my passion for making art, doing art, drawn to the beauty of it. When I go on a theme, I don't let it up. I don't let up on it until it's well expressed, and then I move to another theme or subject. I remember my love for the figure. That lasted a long time until the women's lib movement came in for the third or fourth or fifth time and straightened my ass out again, and I mean, the ladies in faculty, I was chairman of our department at the Art Institute of Chicago, and I thought I could get away with, but we had a figurative department, but it seemed like all of the people who modeled were female, and all of the guys that attend classes were not so nice, and I can just see something wasn't right about this class, so I personally did away with the entire attitude and that particular course. During my time, it will come back, but it was really strong in the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s, and I come there in the 90s and tried to carry over a lot of those attitudes, and that's history. That's my art history, and that is art history. I had difficulty expressing myself, and I still do. I had a complex about it. Was raised in a family that spoke Southern dialect, and although it was so beautiful, the way they expressed themselves, I was inadequate when I attended college and would listen to critiques by teachers who spoke. It seemed like they spoke in a different language. It was so foreign to me. And that's when, I had to, again, put on that mask, disguise myself, or change, and become someone else. I became an artist of disguise, It's kind of sad, but I tell my students about it, students like you, because they're interested in stuff like that. Cut a part through my hair to make it look like my hair waved over like white boys, Tried to do that, but my hair wouldn't move, So I had to cut a part, when it would rain, Let's see, something else that's not so funny. The language thing, working, with difficulty at certain things, how to pronounce certain words, clarifying words, putting your INGs on the end of your words, and quit walking funny and pull your pants or put a belt on or something. Culture is a very important thing, It makes many things happen. It doesn't happen just racially. I mean, if you were different in any way from folks around you that were the mainstay, you would adjust in strange ways. But what I didn't recognize or realize was the fact that change can make you strong, because sometimes mask applying can open up other areas, especially your imagination. Not really, not really. Even the religious people, the church, you know, church people, um, they wouldn't detour me. That's it's really cool. That was a real community, you know. They never objected, you know, like they did in music. Of course, if I go in church and play rock and roll, or blues or jazz on my guitar, they objected to that. But they would always tell me the truth. They would say, look, what you're trying to do has already been done. It was in spirituals and gospels, and sometimes Mrs. Poem, the piano player, she'd take me by the hand and show me certain chord structures and things. See, we already do that, you know. You need to come to the church. Many little lessons like that. I had to, you know, turn my ass around, you know, and because you get full of yourself, you know. That's an old saying. You get full of yourself after a while, thinking that your way is the right way, until the adults come in and straighten you out. Where I am today, I don't realize it, and I never have, you know, realized it. It's like calling yourself an artist and not knowing what an artist is, you know. I don't know a definition. Today, I'm just an individual competing still, you know, with all the things that, you know, happen. I'm in what we call a creative world, no different from dancers, poets, anything. We work with elements, you know. We stress the imagination. And the most important thing is that we communicate. So where I am in my life is I have stronger abilities, you know, not at the top, you never reach the top. More abilities that I can count on to say things, to clarify certain things in the visual arts as I do in the audio arts. What I like about the word art is that it can't be defined. It's elusive. Well, one piece of advice is to not become over anxious or discouraged, or don't put so much emphasis on the business end of art or the money part of art making, because it's not going to happen, you know. Maybe in a lucky way, you know, someone will discover you and make you some kind of huge rock star in the arts, just to make money off of you. Huh? But I would tell my students, just, you know, develop that particular passion. You know, develop that which brought you to the arts in the first place. Examine, think about why and what you're doing. You know. And how does it benefit others? I mean, that's like a sure thing, you know, sure motivation. That's the beginning of reality. That's the beginning of good things happening, because you're involved with other people's experiences, and in doing so, there's a lot of healing and helping taking place.